It's Kraettli Epperson.
Well, thank you, sir, for being here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman and committee, and thank you very much to TIL for inviting me. Do I control this from here? I do. Okay, very good. So I'm Kraettli Epperson. I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, and I'll tell you, we think of ourselves, particularly at Vigilant Aerospace, as an OCAS success story, and I've seen some of the experience and great work that Carol and Elaine have done in prior experiences here in Oklahoma, so it's really exciting to be here. This is just a little bit of background about me before I get started. I've been asked to talk about the opportunities in advanced air mobility for the state, and so I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive on that and go pretty quickly here and then hopefully have some time for questions. So I'm the CEO of Vigilant Aerospace. We're based here in Oklahoma City. I live about 15 minutes from here and dropped a kid off at school about 5 minutes from here before I came. Fourth generation Oklahoma, and I had great grandparents who were oil and gas wildcatters. I'm a serial tech entrepreneur, so my background is in building mostly software and technology companies. I've done so Houston, London, Dallas, and Oklahoma City. Moved back for some of our latest efforts here about 9 years ago. Have co-founded seed investment funds, including a venture seed investment fund and venture accelerator called Venture Spur that was headquartered here in Oklahoma City, and then was formerly an adjunct at Rice University in entrepreneurship, and have raised multiple rounds of venture capital and had exits in tech companies. So that's my background, and that's really why I got involved with Venture Spur. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the company, and then I'm going to talk about the industry that we're in which there is a great convergence going on in Oklahoma right now, which is really exciting. So Vigilant Aerospace is a startup with offices in Oklahoma City. So we're headquartered here. We have an office in North Dakota. We licensed a couple of patents from NASA Armstrong at Edwards Air Force Base out in California to get started. We're a leading developer of multi-sensor detect and avoid and collision avoidance systems, so fundamental safety systems for uncrewed aircraft and for advanced air mobility aircraft, so larger aircraft. So that's really our focus, and that's what we work in, and we're one of the leading providers of that. We were named NASA's Commercial Invention of the Year in 2021, and we have contracts with NASA, FAA, and now the U.S. Air Force. So very early stage company, but we're getting some traction and using all of the connections that we can. Our system's designed to help delivery drones, particularly air taxis that might move people, and military drones to fly safely and automatically avoid collision, which is really going to be essential for the industry to grow. So I've been asked particularly to talk about advanced air mobility as an industry, and this is something that Tulsa Innovation Labs, OSU's OAir, and several other institutions in the state and tribal nations are very focused on, and in which the state is achieving great traction right now. So it's an important new segment of the aviation industry, this AAM thing. It's really focused on smaller electronic vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, primarily for short haul, 25 mile up to 150 mile, really focused on urgent cargo. So you can imagine it moving, for example, transplant organs. You can imagine it moving urgent equipment, moving people from accident scenes to hospitals very quickly, moving medics out to hospitals, out to accident scenes, and then air taxis for more mundane movement of people and goods. It's designed to be simpler, faster, more flexible. It's really the next iteration using a lot of autonomy. So many of these aircraft will either be piloted or remotely piloted or mostly autonomous. The regulations and technology are currently emerging for this right now. So I serve on some committees. I've served on FAA rulemaking committees, serve on some standard committees to help with that. It is a significant multi-billion-dollar investment area right now where traditional aviation companies are scrambling to be invested in this, to work with the Jobies and the Wists and the Betas, and then the delivery drone companies, the Matternets. Venture capital firms are investing heavily. The U.S. military, particularly the Air Force, is investing heavily in this, as are many other allied and rival nations that really want to get ahead in advanced air mobility because it is the future of aviation. So this is just a picture. I won't go into this too much, just some examples of some missions that NASA uses when it talks about advanced air mobility, moving people in and out of cities, moving people to and from facilities, supporting logistics, doing long-range inspection of assets, all things which are actually very important. And I'm going to talk about what we're doing in Oklahoma to support and develop the industry around AAM throughout the state. So the economic impact. What is AAM emerging to be in our economy? So current estimates are that the entire industry of AAM is going to grow by 7-fold between 2025 and 2035. The FAA, particularly for smaller delivery drones, is expecting a fleet of about 40,000 delivery drones to be active in the United States, completing 500 million deliveries per year by 2030. There are already companies that are working on this. We're working with several companies with our safety system on helping to build the overall technology and infrastructure and then the regulations that are going to make that happen. Overall, Deloitte estimates that the combined value of AAM by 2035 will be $115 billion with 280,000 high-paying jobs. We certainly want to have some of those jobs in our company, and we want many of those to be in Oklahoma, and we expect that they can be. So, why invest in advanced air mobility? What's going on right now in the industry is that this is a new emerging industry. Investments are being made. Winners and losers are emerging right now based on the choices and decisions that the state and local economies make. The FAA has designated key sites for advanced air mobility development in North Texas, particularly for the use of automated and networked air traffic control, which is a necessary technology. The FAA has designated 7 UAS test sites. We work with most of these. We have our software at several of these and do testing with them. So University of Alaska Fairbanks, Virginia Tech, particularly University of North Dakota, where we have an office up there. We work closely with them. States are also making various types of direct investments to encourage and attract companies like ours into their state. In many cases, I'll give you a couple of examples. So North Dakota has made approximately $100 million state-based investment. They're building airspace management infrastructure, which is a big push right now, and of which there is activity in Oklahoma around that and developing that right now, which we're really excited to see. And then there are startup investment funds. Similarly, in New York, the New Air Test Center near Syracuse and the state legislature have invested close to $85 million. They're again focusing on airspace management infrastructure, which includes things like radars, creating corridors, creating command centers to be a leader in this new industry. And they also have startup investment funds. So Ohio, New Mexico, North Carolina, and Nevada have also made plays for this. Really, they're looking for the crown to be the Silicon Valley of drones. And that's a crown that is up for grabs right now. So building an ecosystem for the future, we know that AAM is the future of aviation just based on the number of aircraft that are going to be involved, the number of people and the number of operators that are required for that to scale up. And we know that if we don't do it, our peer and rival nations will do it. We're already seeing that right now throughout the world, that there's tremendous interest. And so the U.S., both in defense and in commercial and civilian activities, are investing heavily in this right now. There's growing demand for this fast, flexible, customized air mobility, a way to move point to point and to bring all of our systems up to what the technology is capable of today. Lots of missions around energy, logistics, infrastructure, agriculture, and defense are really important to this new industry. And then there are some really critical things that are enabling this, and this gets to the point of where Oklahoma can think about investing. So electrification of aircraft, the use of additional sensors, AI, automation, are all critical enabling technologies for this industry to grow and for many industries to grow. So not just advanced air mobility, but lots of industries are depending on these new technologies. So there's a lot of cross-seeding of skills that can be supported by supporting this industry. So there are big opportunities for early adopters. So this is really an important part of this discussion. Developing the key technologies, choosing those, developing the intellectual property is absolutely critical. Fostering a local ecosystem and an education pipeline to support the aviation industry. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of aviation in Oklahoma and why we have some special advantages to do that, and we are making moves in the right direction. And then retaining that knowledge and workforce so that you really do develop an ecosystem here that can support both the next generation of aviation, which is coming whether we like it or not, and have great crossover into energy, defense, and even life sciences, especially regarding machine learning, AI, and sensors. So what's the specific opportunity for Oklahoma? We have a great opportunity, as Jennifer have both highlighted, to leverage very important, large, substantial federal investments right now into uncrewed aircraft systems, so UAS development and advanced air mobility, to allow Oklahoma to attract talent, startups, companies, and capital into our state, so that we can do those dollar matches and we can have a level of leverage and efficiency for both early stage, mid stage, and growing companies to use those federal dollars here. So that's really exciting, very exciting for us as a company. Opportunity to choose critical market areas and gaps to lead to and then lead the industry in those areas. So that's something that we as a company have made a decision to work in an area that is a critical technical gap and to provide solutions and to invest, really all of our effort as a company in this safety problem, without which you really can't move forward in the industry. So that is something that as a state and an ecosystem, we can decide that we're going to focus in this area. OAir is making decisions like that. Others are making decisions about where to invest their time, where to direct their graduate students, where to help startups and attract startups in order to fill those gaps and be critical in the industry. The other thing, of course, is leveraging our existing nonprofit public sector assets. A lot has been talked about with some of those assets, and so I'll just mention the people that we see working very closely in this. OSU's OAir has been a great partner to us, has worked with us through OCAST and also through the SBIR program to help attract projects here in Oklahoma and do development here in Oklahoma. Tulsa Innovation Labs is doing really important things around developing the Skyway range, for example. Osage Nation and INCOG are also partners in that. OU Advanced Radar Research Center is helping to provide resources and is a partner in some of the programs I'm going to talk about. And then the SBA's UAS Cluster Initiative, which is based here in Oklahoma, and the Drone Port Network have also seen federal support into the state to develop this industry here. And then Skyway 36 and the Choctaw Nation are both doing tribal nation-oriented development work in various parts of the state. So doing the work. So I'm going to highlight some specific projects now that are going on in the state. The Skyway Range Flight Corridor is one of the most interesting. Jennifer talked about this a little bit. It is the most ambitious AAM corridor in the United States, 114 nautical miles, 4 major nodes, many subnodes, nodes that are being designed and developed for that corridor. That is a really key piece to allowing Oklahoma to be a leader in this industry. We're very excited about that. That is EDA funded with leadership from OAir at OSU, Tulsa Innovation Labs, Osage LLC, and INCOG. The NASA University Leadership Initiative also bringing money into the state from NASA for WindMap, which is a project led by OSU to do wind hazard studies for AAM. We're a partner in that, so we bring that data into our safety system to allow remote pilots and crewed aircraft pilots to see that distinct weather hazard data. The Launchpad program, which has just started at OSU, support for startups and collaboration are a key part of their mission. We met with them, went to their launch for their partners earlier this week. And then the Drone as a First Responder program, which is distinct, a very interesting interesting program. This is in partnership with the Tulsa Fire Departments. They are working with the FAA to set up pre-stationed drones in Tulsa to allow them to much more quickly respond to emergencies on the river there in Tulsa, to respond to emergencies in and around the city and the parks, so that they in a few moments can determine whether they have something critical that they need to respond to or whether they have a false alarm and they're not going to put 8 or 10 people into a fire truck to go respond to. This is something the FAA is strongly encouraging, these types of programs, and it uses all of these technologies in a very practical way. And then OAIR and their uncrewed aircraft flight station, which we've been using for many years now, with them is an active flight test center that has support and connections into all of these programs and has been great for us. And we've done OCAS and also SBIR programs with OAIR utilizing that field. All right, so a little bit of more sort of deep dive. This is my opinion. This really is my opinion. So the SWOT analysis, traditional way to approach this. So Oklahoma has certain strengths. I know there's been questions about why here, what's going on here. So we have open airspace. We've got great industries to support, a lot of welcoming arms in the industries that are here in Oklahoma for these technologies. They see it as a potential competitive advantage. That certainly goes across energy, all of the infrastructure, agriculture, logistics, which is a really big one for AAM, the idea of moving goods in a hub and spoke system or moving goods point to point, which is really the focus of AAM, and then a lot of defense industry interest. So deep history of aviation manufacturing, I think we all know that. It's now sort of the second industry in the state in terms of its size and employment, and that's a great platform from which to launch leadership in this industry, lots of MRO work, and then the civilian and defense aviation industry and workforce that is already here in the state. So we're hiring veterans, for example, to work with us here in Oklahoma City on some of our programs, including an Air Force program I'll mention in a moment, and so that's a good platform in the state. So weaknesses. So there are things that we can work on for sure. There are fewer technology companies in Oklahoma than there are in many of the competing places, and there is a smaller venture capital market here than there is in some other places. The state's working on that. We're excited to see developments in that, but it is smaller. That is something where those venture capital firms typically have to be specialized in order to support aviation. They have to have expertise, interest, a long-term outlook. It's not an app that everybody's going to put on their phone in 6 months and then you sell the company. It's not that kind of thing. You got to be able to work with defense, work with the FAA, and so it's more of a deep tech kind of approach. The other thing, of course, is some of the competing states are making big R&D and infrastructure investments, and that's something that Oklahoma is now in a position to really seriously compete by leveraging federal dollars, leveraging state dollars into this new industry. And so that's something where there is competition for sure going on, particularly around R&D. So opportunities, learn lessons from those states that are making these investments. Some of them, I'll just say, leaped pretty early, and so now they're realizing that they've got to redirect, they've got to change what they're doing. This is very common for early adopters and first movers, but Oklahoma has an opportunity, and we're certainly trying to help encourage the state to really do data-driven investment into where we think the industry is going, what technologies and infrastructure are necessary to be sure that the dollars here are used the best that they can be, and every dollar is leveraged to maximum value. And then that federal support is available right now. It is time limited. As Jennifer and others have mentioned, we've got to really perform during these contract periods and get it done, both as a small company, at a local economy level, and a state level. That is really, really important to get it done quickly. We need to move quickly to leverage these things. We need to develop engaged the technology workforce. This is critical. Several people have talked about this, and we need to retain those early and mid-career technology people in that workforce. We're doing that in our little tiny way by hiring some of them, but we need everybody to be on that bandwagon every day. So Oklahoma really has a seat at the AAM table for this new industry. There have been a lot of announcements, some of which have been discussed in detail. Certainly what's going on with TIL, with the EDA investments, with OAIR and OSU, with the city of Tulsa, and with numerous other partners is really exciting. And we're also have been awarded some Air Force projects, and we're doing those projects here in Oklahoma City, and so we're really excited about that. And those things have direct overlap with the critical technologies that are needed to advance this industry. So that's my presentation. This is a map of the new Skyway Range Flight Corridor system that is being developed and has been announced under that EDA grant with OSU, TIL, Osage, and NCOG leading the way, and several other partners being involved in that. This is really the most ambitious flight corridor of its type being developed in the United States. So we're very, very excited about that. Thank you all very much.
Representative Banning with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.